All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 450 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to Atlanta Falcons football, but I want to continue the Southern Not State part 2 because I did part 1 yesterday. Quick recap on Atlanta Falcons football. Isaiah Oliver has returned. That is a good thing off of IR. But we already heard about Cordell Patterson, and Kyle Pitts was set out because of a hamstring injury, so he didn't practice, yesterday. So that's kind of concerning. So that is something we may want to watch going forward. But other than that, I think, everything is okay. Losing Kyle Pitts is nothing to sneeze at. That's, don't know if he's going to be playing this weekend against the Bucs, but that's something to think about. Nevertheless, we're going to go into part 2 of Georgia Southern playing Georgia State in Atlanta. I don't know if you guys don't know already, I will be at that game. I'm definitely going to represent Georgia Southern there. But today, we're going to talk about our defense against their offense. We did the flip side of that in part 1. We talked about our offense against their defense. And we're going to talk about our defense because there is some type of concern about that. I'm going to talk about that. Hopefully you guys follow along. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am on YouTube and Rumble. I can also be found on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, so you can listen to the podcast to your leisure. If you want to support in other ways, the links will be down in the description. You can also find me on Twitter and Discord for all the other information I don't get a chance to talk about on the podcast or in video form. So with that being said, we're going to get right into this right here. Georgia Southern is going to have an issue with Georgia State. And I know a lot of people saying, oh, Georgia State hasn't done good. They're 1-4, whatever the case may be. Yes, that is true. They are 1-4, but one thing that they can do, they can put up some stats. And if you let them get a rhythm, you let them get comfortable playing against us, especially with them having that chip on their shoulder after beating Army, we better be very careful because this team can move the ball, regardless of what you may think about that. And I want to take these guys very serious. And with our defense, I think we should. Darren Granger, their offense runs through this quarterback. Thrown for over 1,000 yards already, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's not bad. His interception touchdown ratio is actually pretty good. He's been sacked 7 times, so we could possibly get some pressure on him. But he also has a running back, Tucker Gregg, who's also ran for about 350 yards, who, for all intents and purposes, we as a team have not been doing very well with tackling. We've done better in the past couple games, but that's still one of our Achilles heels, which I'll touch on in a little bit. Now, also, they have a couple other running backs as well. Jameis Williams is another one. He's ran for 274. He averaged 5.3 a carry. And they also have Marcus Carroll, which is the pretty much the highest. He runs the highest average per carry with 6.2. They also ran for 218 yards. So this team can move the ball, and their receivers may not be something that's a big standout. But Jamari Thrash is actually having over he has over 400 yards already and 25 receptions. So this team can move the ball. So this is something that we need to pay attention to when we're going to play against the team. Can they go toe to toe with us? I'm not really sure if they can go toe to toe with us offensively if it turns to a shootout. But what I will say is we cannot take this team lightly. It's fun and games because they're 1-4. Don't get me wrong. I sit there and joke on them all the time because they're not getting it done. I'll be the first one to tell you that I will sit there and count them all day for not getting it done. But you don't want to lose to this team after all this talk we done had. All the smack that we had talked as far as the fans. Now, I know that doesn't mean much because those guys are going out there to play. And I believe that they can beat them, but we're not just going to walk in there and think that we're just going to run through these guys. Yeah, we can take over their stadium with the fans and all this other stuff, but these guys are going to have to get it done. And I want to talk about this defense for Georgia Southern. Our leading tacklers are defensive backs. That is a problem. That's a problem. And I don't want to talk down to the defense because they do play fairly well when needed, but overall, they're playing below average, and this is something that needs to change. I would like to see the turnaround in this game. The guys go out there and play with some, a sense of urgency, play like their hair is on fire, instincts on 10, go out there and smack some Panthers around. But when you have their leading tacklers or defensive backs, and to be honest, their leading tackles aren't really that good. You got Anthony Wilson and Derek Canteen are leading in solo tackles with 21. That's actually fairly low. When you look at other guys you look at other DBs that are in the league of the Sun Belt, you got other guys that are, their DBs are around about 8, 7, 6, 4 tackles. You may have one guy who's a thumper who actually don't mind getting some tackles. They may be up there in the teens, but you don't want your secondary leading in tackles. You want those guys to be leading in pass breakups. You want those guys to be leading in pass defenses or, knockdowns or, in some cases, interceptions. You want those guys to be on top of the game when it comes to that. You do not want these guys to be leading in tackles. So when you look at a guy like that can move around, like Darren Granger, who's actually, is one of their top rushers at 233 yards for the season. When you have, guys like Tucker Gregg and these other guys that run the ball for Georgia State, you don't want these guys, Derek Canteen or Anthony Wilson, Waylon Free, which is a pretty good defensive back, I will say. He's done pretty good, but he's right behind them in total tackles at 19. This is something that's actually concerning to me. It's not the fact that we're not tackling because we've gotten better at it, but look who are your leading tacklers. That's something that needs to change. There's nothing nowhere around that. Total tackles, when you look at total and assist, your leading tacklers on that is Marquez Watson Trent. Is a guy that's probably going to need to step up and play pretty well. I'm not saying step up as far as he hasn't been doing it, because he's been doing fairly well throughout the season. But when you look at a guy who you want to take that next level or take command of that front seven, Watson Trent or Quadri Jackson, those guys can come in and do something. You also got the other guys that's on the defensive line who probably going to be able to get some pressure up on this team, because I don't think your offensive line is the best, but I feel like we should be able to do something as far as, get some pressure. When you have a guy like Latrell Bullard, you got these really big guys up front who don't mind, getting some leverage. So our front seven has played a lot better, but you don't want it to be a trend to where your secondary is tackling a lot of guys in this game, because you have your DBs leading in tackles. And it's been a big deal for us, because that first point of contact, you had a lot of guys that are our opponents breaking tackles and they're getting into the secondary. I mean, you absolutely saw what happened a few times at Coastal. The big run that everybody's been talking about when Beasley jumped over Birdsong. I mean, those type of plays we cannot give up. And I mean, even if we do give up, we have to give them up, but they have to be limited. They cannot be something that takes over a game or put the knife in, put the nail in the coffin for our team like Coastal did. So defensively, I think this is something that we need to work on. I think as far as giving up passing plays, I think for the most part, I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue. We've been doing okay with that. You got a guy like, what's his name? I can't remember his name from Coastal just that quick. The quarterback from Coastal, I mean, he's going to do some things. He dude's just a baller. But, with Ball State, it wasn't really that much of a passing game over there. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't nothing significant to keep us, feeling like we weren't in the thick of things. Because, in football, teams are going to complete passes. But like I said, you just can't let these things take over or dominate a game or put too much pressure on our team. You want to put that pressure on them. So this is something that's just going to have to happen. When you have second and third attempts at tackling somebody, that takes over a game. Yeah, you may give up a big play going downfield every now and then when it comes to the passing game, but there's going to have to be times when you make a stop and that doesn't, you can't do it. You got to make a stop and shut it down. And I talked about this in the Atlanta Falcons game when the last two times those guys got an interception and killed the game with turnovers. I mean, you want to get in a situation where you're able to do something about them trying to drive down the field, get them in 3 and outs, make them punt, put them in situations where they're 3rd and long, where they have to, you put some pressure on them to make a big play instead of just making a 3rd and 7. So it's a lot that we could do. There's a lot that we could do to slow down this offense, because this offense is fairly dynamic. I will say that. I've seen Darren Granger make some passes. They're fairly dynamic, but I don't think that's just going to be enough to go toe-to-toe with us if it turns into a shootout. I just don't think they have the defense as well. We just talked about the defense over there, where I feel like Kyle Van Treese and company and the guys like Jalen White and Gerald Green, and I hope to see Omari Arnold. We like to see those guys, take over against their defense. But you got to be on the flip side of that. Our defense is not the best either. So this is something that we may have to look into as far as finding ways to make sure these guys don't move the ball. Like I said, I've seen Granger throw this ball around, and he looks okay. He's not a scrub. He got some guys out here that can, make some plays on offense. So that's something that we're really going to have to look into. Last but not least, I would be remiss if I wouldn't talk about I would be remiss if I wouldn't talk about guys like Dylan Springer and Justin Ellis. I would like to see these guys make a difference in this game. I want to see these guys get maybe 2, maybe. I'll be honest, I would like to see them guys get like 3 sacks in this game. Those guys are the veterans. Those are the ones that we've been relying on for a lot to make things happen on that front 7. And I think they'll be able to. I think they'll be able to do something when it comes to that. But I would just like to see them, at the very least get some pressure on Granger, because Granger can move. We could keep him kind of contained and try to make some things happen where he's not going to be able to make too many plays with his legs. And if we can slow that down a little bit, I think we'll be okay when it comes to getting those guys off the field. So overall, this is what we have before I close. You have guys that's in the secondary that's leading the team in tackles. That's something that I know that's bulletin board material for Georgia State. They're going to look at that, and they're going to see if they can get, their running back either in space or through the offensive line, where they're through their offensive line, so they can get second level situations. Because once they're in the second level, they already won. They already won for that play. So they're going to try to get it to where they can get to these defensive backs and make them hit somebody, because that's going to soften those guys up. After a while, they probably won't even want to cover. So I know that's bulletin board material to have these guys leading the league in tackles, and these are not tackles that are leading the team in tackles, and they're not getting these tackles by necessarily stepping up into the box and stopping plays. No, these guys leading the team in tackles based on second level type of runs. Front 7 is not tackling properly, so they're going to try to test it with the run. I know they will. It's just going to be up to that front 7 to do something. So that, and also I want to see some pressure up front when they do try to pass, because I think we'll be okay when it comes to covering. You had a couple of guys got exposed a little bit in the Coastal game, but I don't think Georgia State passing game is as effective as Coastal's. But at the end of the day, when you got a quarterback like Granger, anything could happen, because I've seen him make some passes, seen him make some plays. So we have to be very careful going up against this team when it comes to that. And one more time, I would like to see the veterans, Justin Ellis. I would like to see Justin Ellis. I would also like to see what's the other? I just named him. My mind is just going that quick. Well, I would like to see guys like Justin Ellis, even Christian Varner. I would like to see him do something as well, make some things happen. It's very vital for us to make something happen with all of this. Dylan Springer, that's the one I just didn't even mention. And this is another thing. And to me, it's kind of troubling when you look at guys like a Dylan Springer or a Justin Ellis that's not necessarily leading or don't have double digit tackles yet. So that's something that I would love to see more. But if we got to be real, I want to see these guys make something happen, because like I said, Georgia State can actually cut you up if you're not necessarily prepared, because these guys can move the ball a little bit. I think I said enough on that one. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this commentary, hit the like button. Like this podcast, share this podcast if you don't mind. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think when it comes to Georgia Southern versus Georgia State. I think I did a pretty good job for part 1 and part 2. I think I was a little bit all over the place with part 2 because I'm a little bit nervous about our defense. I'm not going to lie to you. I am a little bit nervous, but I think we're going to still get the win because offensively, I don't think they're going to keep up with what we can do. I mean, I know that, they've been keeping up with a few teams, but they struggle with a couple other ones as well. And if we've seen anything what they did against Coastal, I think we'll be able to mimic that, and I think we'll be okay as far as beating the Panthers. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to get up out of here. You guys enjoy your Thursday. I will be back with another episode on Friday. I do plan on heading out to Atlanta on Friday because I will be there. I'm going to go see some family, do a few things while we're in Atlanta. Definitely going to be at the game, so you guys can check me out. You can find me. I won't be hard to find, to be honest. I'll let you guys know what's up when it gets closer to that time. So maybe we can chop it up and talk some Georgia Southern football in person. All right, y'all. I'm going to get up out of here. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy. Y'all be blessed. Peace.